Our concerns for karma is rooted in our fear of death. It is primal fear of the unknown. Our actions in the life are for the most part driven by the desire to be in a better place after death, or for the fear of not to be in the worst place after death. This fear of leaving body and mind has existed through the ages. A story of Yayati. There is a nice story in Mahabharata, the great Indian epic. There was once a king by the name of Yayati. He lived extremely well for 100 years, enjoying his kingdom and all the physical and mental comforts of life. At the end of 100 years, Yama, the lord of death, came to him to take him away as it was time for him to leave the earth. The king was shocked to see Yama and started crying, "Why have you come so fast? And that too suddenly without any notice. I have not lived my life fully yet. Please give me some more time to live." Yama replied that there is no extension possible to one's life, but Yayati pleaded with him and begged for more time. Yama finally agreed that if any one of his sons was ready to give up his life for Yayati, then the king could live for that much more time. Yayati called one of his sons. The son agreed, "I will give up my life, let my father live." He gave up his life. Yama extended Yayati's life by 100 years. Yayati continued to enjoy all the material comforts in the same way as before and lived another 100 years. At the end of this period, Yama returned to him. This time too, Yayati was shocked to see Yama again so soon. He felt he hardly lived his life and begged Yama, saying that was not prepared to die and wanted more time. Yama gave him another chance. Another of Yayati's sons gave up his life for his father, and Yayati got a lease for another 100 years of life. Yayati enjoyed another 100 years of life, and Yama came back to him. Again, as before, Yayati asked for more time, but this time Yama refused to play the same game again. Instead of agreeing to king's plea, this time Yama asked Yayati compassionately, "O king, do you think you can put a fire out by pouring oil into it? Do you think that you can fulfill your desire by living them out more and more?" In just a few beautiful words, Yama explained the whole purpose of life to Yayati. Yayati finally realized the truth, followed Yama, and rested at the feet of the divine. You cannot feel fulfilled by offering sense pleasures to the senses. You cannot feel that you are ready for death if you never lived intensely. Trying to satisfy the senses, pouring pleasure into your senses, or living as you want does not mean living intensely. When you really live intensely, automatically you will be liberated. Why are we afraid of death? When we are afraid because instinctively we resist change, and death is an abrupt change in life. The master Chuang Tzu says beautifully, man's thirst for survival in the future makes him incapable of living in the present. We are afraid because we do not know who we are. We hold an identity of ourselves inside us based on our family relationships, jobs, wealth, social image, etc. Death removes this very foundation on which our identity is built. So we feel death snatches everything that is ours. Our understanding about death, or rather our misunderstanding about death, makes death a fearful, frightening experience. The man who resists death dies even while he lives. He dies every moment because he is tortured by the very idea of death. When I say death, I don't mean only physical death. Losing anything is a form of death. Losing your comfortable life is one form of death. Losing your relatives is another form of death. Please understand that loss in any form is nothing but death. There are two issues. The incident of death that happens at the end of our lives, and psychological death. Real death happens only once, but psychological death, the fear of death, permeates our life. The idea and fear of death decides our entire life structure. Every part of our body is connected to someone or the other. Your being is not an individual being, it is not alone, separate as you think. We all are interlinked. That is why we undergo terrible sufferings when we lose someone or something. Every missing that you experience, no matter of whom or what, is what I call death. Fear of death is just the fear of continuity or discontinuity. We are afraid about the what's next. In the mysteries of death lies the answer to life. Once in USA, a young lady asked the great Indian monk Vivekananda, what is life? Vivekananda said, come with me to India, I will teach you. She asked, what will you teach me? He said, I will teach you how to die. If you know the secret of death, the quality of your life will be different. Your very understanding and attitude towards everything will change. Death is not a mere incident at the end of your life. It is a profound knowing. If you know how to die, you know how to live. Living and leaving are two sides of the same thing. Your life will be totally different once you understand death. Entering into death. Almost all traditions have tried to conquer death, to outlive death. But one group of very really intelligent, intuitive people understood after much struggle that we were approaching death in a completely wrong direction. They decided to take a 180-degree turn. They started working with death in a depth in a different way. They used meditation as a technique to take them where others had not dared to go before. Those few intelligent ones were the rishis of the Upanishad. The report they submitted on the research into the phenomena of death is called Kato Upanishad. These rishis researched deeply on death and finally came to the conclusion that death cannot be understood or overcome by resistance. By resisting death, you cannot go beyond death. The only way to break free from the vicious cycle of birth and death is by becoming enlightened. Entering into death, dropping the fear. Please understand that death has power over you because of your belief, your faith in it. That's all. If you take little time and look into your fear of death, you will see that it has the power to transform your life into the most positive way. You will realize that it is not contradictory to life but complementary to life. Death is a deep relaxation. It is the ultimate letting go. It is the dropping of the old and starting with the new. When your being recognizes that it cannot achieve what it wants to through this body, it decides to move on. This moving on, this passing over is what is called death. When your brand new house becomes old, after passage of years, you either try to repair it, or if that is too inconvenient and frustrating, you decide to sell the house and move into a new one. In the same way, when you feel that you have not lived your life totally in the way you wanted to, you leave this body to take a new one. Your choice is to start all over again, is what is called death. Mystery of mysteries. There is a beautiful story in the great Indian epic Mahabharata. The prince Yudhishthira was asked by a yaksha, a demigod, what is the most mysterious thing on planet Earth? Yudhishthira replied, every day so many lives are going to the abode of Yama, the lord of death. Yet people who stay here think they are going to live forever. We think that it is someone else who will die, not us. Death is truly a mystery of all the mysteries. There are only two things that are certain about death. One is that we will die at some point in time. The other is that it is uncertain when and how we will die. Everything that is born has to die. That is nature of life. A beautiful story from life of Buddha. Once a woman came with her dead son to Buddha. She was mad with grief at the death of her only son. She cried to Buddha, Master, please give me some medicine that will get my boy back to life. Buddha replied, Get me a handful of mustard seed. The woman got up immediately and rushed to get a handful of mustard seed. Then the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be from a house where no one has lost a dear one, child, husband, parent, friend. The woman went from house to house. Out of pity for her desperately crying woman, people gave her mustard seeds from their house, but when she asked whether they had lost their dear one, they had someone or the other who had died in the house. She went from house to house till the sun set, but found no house where a death had not happened. Slowly the truth started dawning on her. Death is inevitable. She buried her son's body and returned to Buddha. She fell at the feet of Buddha and asked him, Master, please teach me the truth. What is the death? What exists beyond death? She became the Buddha's disciple and followed Buddha for the rest of her life. There is a beautiful saying, tomorrow or the next life, which comes first, we never know. The topic of rebirth is not popular because it cannot be proven by science. Of course, now near-death experience, NDE, has become a hot subject as many doctors and psychologists have recorded their experiences. There are many people who have recorded thousands of NDEs, almost all of which has fallen into a similar pattern. They all relive the events of their lives. Hypnosists have regressed people into their past life. They too fall into a pattern. They are similar to what the rishis said over 5,000 years ago, what happens when you die, which is recorded in the Kato Upanishad. Understand, when the breathing stops, that is the moment when individual soul actually leaves the physical body. There are 7 layers of bodies in you. The body of flesh, bone, blood, that is you, see, is the physical body. The energy moving in you as prana or life energy is the pranic body. There are 5 kinds of prana or air. The movement that happens in the body, air that enters into the body, air that circulates inside the body, air that spreads all over the body as life force, air that comes out of the body, and air that cleanses. These form the second body or the pranic body. The third body is beyond. Third body is where inner chatter continuously happens. Inner chatter is nothing but continuous stream of words or thoughts that move within you. The fourth body is made up of emotions like fear, anger and greed, which spreads as feelings all over the body without even words coming into play. An emotion by itself can simply shake you. This is the emotional layer. The fifth layer is the body that you experience in deep sleep. This is where all the engraved memories or engrams are stored in the seed or casual level. The engrams are not active, but they are not dead either. It is like a deep coma where you are neither living when what you want, nor are you dead. You are just stuck in this layer. From the casual body, the individual soul moves to the cosmic body. The sixth layer is the cosmic body where you experience bliss. This is what continuously inspires you to be a seeker. If you are a seeker, understand that this layer is strong in you. If you enrich this layer, you will be blissful. If you have any engram remaining in this layer, you will assume another body and come back. If you continuously enjoy pleasurable experiences, then you are said to be in heaven. If you are stuck in pain, you are said to be in hell. Depending on how much pain you experienced in life, you will stay that long in the pain body or hell at the time of death. Depending on how much pleasures you experienced in your life, you will stay that long in the cosmic body or heaven. Hell and heaven are purely psychological. This is the truth. Based on what engrams you have, you experience heaven and hell. That is why different cultures visualize heaven in their own way, because heaven is not a place, it is an experience. The seventh layer is the nirvanic layer, which corresponds to enlightenment. At the time of death, there is a powerful fight between owner of the individual soul and the object or the body. The object says, I am tired, I can't function anymore. The owner says, no, I want to use you. When the object wins, the physical body dies and the individual soul moves to the next layer, the pranic body. This is the layer where you are in when you normally dream. While dreaming, your logic loses its power over you, but your desires remain active. The very definition of dream is the state where logic has no power, but desires and engrams remain active. Even when you are unconscious or in coma, your logic will not be active. As long as you are in the physical body, you will have desires with the logic to analyze whether the desires are needed or not and which one of the desires should be fulfilled, etc. Desires are under your control. There is a balancing mechanism. But when the desires exist out without the supporting logic, the individual soul will be kicked around like a football by the desires. On one side there will be guilt, and on the other side desires that play on the individual soul. When you are born, your body travels through the birth canal of the mother, and because of the intense pain that you go through, you go into coma or the deepest unconscious state and you forget the whole purpose of taking birth. It is like this: you booked the flight ticket and sat inside the aircraft also, but during the flight you were put into a coma, so when you landed you forgot all about why you came to that particular place. Only when you leave the place and aboard the flight again, you suddenly remember why you had come to that place. In the same way, when you die, you feel the strong guilt of not fulfilling the purpose of your birth, or what we call the prarabdha karma. After passing through this guilt, next, all the pain experiences of your life will come up. So, at the time of death, you first pass through physical pain, then through all desires, next through all guilt, then through all emotional pain, and finally through all the pleasures that you experienced in this birth. Normally, as soon as you reach the cosmic body or the sixth layer itself, you return to assume the next body, the next birth. That is, the individual soul returns to assume the next body. Sometimes, rarely you go beyond the sixth layer into the nirvanic body, then you don't come back to assume another body. When you travel through these various bodies and experience your unfulfilled desires, deep guilt and intense pain, you decide strongly, let me take another body, another birth. When I do, I will not forget the purpose of my life and get caught in these elusive games. I will straight away follow the path of truth. But when you actually take birth the next time, again because of intense pain during birth, you drop into coma and forget all about your decision. Let me explain. As long as you hold on to your ordinary logic and remain in the physical layer, the master is just a simple fake for you. Material world appears more solid and real, but when you travel to the deeper layers, the master becomes reality while the material world becomes vague and blurred. It is like how during your night dream, the dream world looks real and the waking world looks vague. Whereas when you are awake, that is when you are with a higher consciousness, the dream world becomes imagination while the waking world becomes reality. In the dream state, the dream world that you see appears like a 4D color film. When you come out of the dream, the whole dream appears black and white. In the same way, if you are raised to a still higher consciousness, this waking world will become dull, while things like spiritual truth and master will become alive and real. When you disconnect from the body and rise into higher consciousness, the master and the superconscious energy will become a gross reality. When the second death happened, the intense enlightened presence straight away caused a person to connect strongly to it. Understand, as you sit down now and here, what is stopping you from connecting with the enlightened energy of the master and merging with it? only your own logic and reasons. As you sit here, there are still doubts in your unconscious. Like, if I drop my possessions and surrender, the master may take it away. The other problem is, presently, as of now, all other things in this world also appear as reality, and you think the master is also real to that same depth. You experience me as the same frequency as the rest of the material world. In the case of the second dying person, all of these outer world things become inaccessible to him at the time of death. He could not sign his checkbook or drive his car. Whatever was holding him back in the material world was automatically being taken away from him. Well, this is it for today. We will look further in Death Part 2. Thank you for joining. Namaskar.